Hi, I'm Reverend Matt, and I'm joined by my colleague.
Hi, it's good to come your way again. I'm Reverend Ralph.
And we are going to be talking over the next few weeks about themes about Lent. And today we are joined by the wonderful Diana, who's going to talk to us about forgiveness.
Yay!
And I'm going to hand over to her to introduce herself because want to get all of that stuff right. So Diana, who are you, where you're from, and what do you know about forgiveness?
We'll start saying hi, hello everybody, and thank you, Matt and Ralph, for the invitation. I said I'm here sweating, nervous, but I think it's a great fun to be here. You guys are doing an amazing job with that. And
Thank you.
Diana, so I studied psychology, so I did my degree in psychology and came to UK to do my master in positive psychology. And originally, yes, I was born in Angola. It's a country in West Africa. But then I traveled to Portugal, been living there, and then to UK. It's been a great ride, even professionally also. And so in my studies on positive psychology, just to say positive psychology, it doesn't mean that there is a negative psychology. It's just the founder, Martin Seligman, he was just tired of, after the Second World War, people studying the diseases. So make a diagnosis and post-traumatic disorders and everything. And he wanted to come up of something that would study and research happiness and flourishment and thriving and this kind of things. That's where the name came from.
Oh, cool.
But yeah.
Yeah. So what particularly drawed you to that then? What was there anything which was like a catalyst?
Yes, I think it's the fact of being a person with hope is important, and struggling in all kinds of ways, it will happen to us all. And then I think that's why my master dissertation, I focus on the trauma, because I think we all find some kind of way we pass on to micro or micro traumas. But there always was this hope of there's something more. And as a Christian saying there is a savior that will bring us to the point where we can be happy, that we can feel joy, that we can have peace and all that good stuff. So I think that naturally when I saw positive psychology and all these things, there is research and studies on hope. And I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. But I went further. So when I finished my master on positive psychology, there was a limitation. And my dissertation was about trauma, but there was a limitation of not going too much on the past of the client. For that, I needed, and so I found positive psychotherapy. It is even older than positive psychology. And there is Dr. Peseskian is the founder, and that is what I'm leading my studies now in positive psychotherapy. And I think I will bring a little bit also forgiveness on that part, but it will focus on positive psychology also. And here I am, a mix of positive studies and forgiveness will come along also with things from my research and personal experience and experience of other people that I deal with on this journey.
Yeah. So is there something about when you're so obviously keeping things, that positive thinking, is there something which kind of ties forgiveness into that? Like, how do you see those two things working together?
Yes, because I think like a very, very simple way to think about forgiveness is the letting go of resentment. And I think just like Seligman has this vision of, for you to add the positive, you need to try to deal with the negative in a way. So the forgiveness comes on this boat with, I need to let it go. Whichever, if it's something for myself, if it's something about an experience, or if it's something about a person, for me to fulfill that cup with positive things and thrive, I need to forgive. And sometimes it's to forgive myself in certain situations. Yeah.
All right. That's pretty incisive, right? So if we just want to draw down a bit on forgiveness, what would you think people get wrong when we talk about forgiveness? What are the wrong premises that people may have, or what do you think is the missing link when we're talking about forgiveness?
Yeah, I think what on one of my studies, what I felt more is when people think, I think there are three things to focus. One is that the forgiveness is about the other person or something external. And I think I just realized with the clients that I interview and everything, it was a lot about yourself. And I can bring something for psychotherapy on this. That is the internal object. So in psychotherapy, we have a concept of internal object. It's everything that is around us, or even people, we internalize. So if I know Matt, and he is everything that he is externally. Internally, I make a little person, and I make a concept, and I idealize something. So when I do the forgiveness, even if it's about Matt that is outside, I am deconstructing the internal object on me. So people that have resentment or wounds of abandonment of parents that they were abusive, or people that went to this kind of traumas, when they forgive, they are deconstructing and working on the internal object of that person, of what they construct about that person. So I think one thing we get wrong is that we are giving the forgiveness. I'm forgiving you, and it is for you, and it's because of what you did. And it's not. It's a lot about what this person is inside of us. The other thing is people think is instantaneously, and you forgive and all things change. When you forgive, a lot of things start to happening, and even neurologically. So I love the limbic system is a little bit part of our primitive brain, but it's a part of controls emotions, manage things. Inside there is insula. It's a little bit of an island that will take a hub for emotional experience, empathy, and self-awareness. Do you think that these three things? Because one of the things when we feel resentment, our self-perception also change. But I will explain that a little bit. But the person thinks is quick. So if I do an exercise of forgiveness, or if I say to the person, I forgive you, things will change from day to night, and they won't. It's like a muscle. We need to exercise. If this part of the brain, if the insula start working, and one of the things they do is just cutting the pain network. So trying that resentment and that rumination will start diminishing, but it's not overnight. We need to keep forgiving. We need to get, in my own experience, I have one of my traumas happened 20 years ago. And I think after 4 years in therapy, it was when, because you think you forget, you forgive and you forget, but you don't. 4 years of therapy. And I will be honest, it wasn't a time that I was fasting during a week. And I was fasting and praising for forgiveness for something that happened to one of my childs. So I have 2 kids. And then that time, I just realized how God was transforming my own wound to forgiveness. But it took me time. So I'm telling you, it takes time. It's not overnight. It was 10 years after the incident, but it took me 4 years of therapy, for instance, and a relationship with God, because fasting was important for me at that specific time. And I think the fasting and praying trigger also that willing to make actions on towards forgiveness. So I did specific things then, along with therapy, to release that, to let it go, and actually to contact my perpetrator. I found him on Facebook, and one of the things is, the third thing I will say people get wrong is that forgiveness means reconciliation and taking accountability. It doesn't. We need to be aware that responsibility of what happened, or the accountability of what happened, if it involves another person, it will still there. And sometimes it's not reconciliation because there are moments that you will not have the chance to reconcile, or the person is not here, is already died, or this relationship will not be positive, will actually be harmful for you. So the forgiveness, it doesn't mean I'm contacting him and we're talking again. When I contact this person, it was more on the panel of, I know what happened, I know what you did, and I want you to know that I know. But I wish you the best. I wish that your children are protected. I wish you will be protected. I wish that God can protect you for things like that, and I forgive you. So it really takes time. These 3 things it's not instantly, it takes time. It's not much about the other person, it's yourself. And yeah, I think this is what people get wrong sometimes.
This sounds quite interesting to me. I'm quite clear. I would be able to draw out from what you've just clearly, stated to us, that forgiveness is first internal and then it involves your will. There has to be the willingness to be able to forgive. Would I be right if I said that?
Yes, it will. Because I think a lot of people, they sometimes feel pressure to forgive. Like if people say, oh, you need to let it go, let it go, let it go. But they don't want. And the will come also because sometimes we have a reward if we keep the grudge, if we keep the resentment. It will produce in our brain. I will talk about the hormonal part, I think, because it's important. It also produces dopamine sometimes when I'm on that resentment state. And dopamine is that reward system, the addiction system, it will trigger. So yes, some people, they don't forgive because actually they have, we call it in psychotherapy, a second gain of keeping the grudge on that situation or on that person, or sometimes on themselves, to continue to be the victim, to feel. Of course, if you go to a person on therapy, you don't tell them this right away. They will feel offended and it's outrageous. I'm telling here because we need to have this self analysis sometimes, that what do I gain if I don't let it go? What I'm holding. I'm not just holding the guilt of the other person. Probably I'm holding that, the fact of being a victim, and then I have the attention. Or maybe I'm holding that, the excuse that probably that's why I didn't move on. That's why I'm not healing. So there is the willing, as you said, it's so important. I need to be willing to let it go and lose what I'm gaining with that resentment.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So in terms of then forgiveness, you talked about this internal work that we kind of do in this, deconstructing the person we make in our minds of what this person is who's done this thing to us. Why then do you think like forgiveness matters for people's well-being and relationships? Because like you said, it's like if it produces dopamine, then surely being unforgiving why stop?
Exactly.
To be like really resentful, then why should we stop? What does that matter? And what does that, I suppose, like then in terms of like because obviously if you're just having grief with other people, it's not great, but like from I suppose from that psychological point, why does that matter? Why does it matter?
Yeah Also, I can get the point of the hormonal system, because of what you're saying. Yeah, it will produce if I'm right, I'm feeling actually boosted. Why letting go? Because on the other side, the forgiveness. So the neuroscience research says that the forgiveness also will be if it cuts the pain network, of course you will feel release. And if in the other side it was producing dopamine, it was also producing cortisol, and it was one of the stress hormones. So it was deteriorating your health, because then cortisol is a stress hormone, and then it comes to your immune system, and you can get physical ill for that. But forgiveness on the other side, if you are blocking all these things and you are letting go, you will produce cortisol, no, your oxytocin, that is the love hormone. So that will improve, like physically, biologically, it will improve already your health. But also in a relationship, for example, I think when you hold that grudge, there's something also about trusting people, or even in being in other relationships that you don't know, but patterns may trigger you because of what you're holding on. So if I give an example, if my experience is, I will talk about trauma. I think my work was a little bit of physical, emotional abuse for women. In their case, if they had this internal object of, is not just of one man sometimes, is of men's in general. Of course, they consciously, they know that is one person that did that, and there is one person that hurts. But unconsciously, sometimes we have that male figure of how men are, because it was done by a man. Sometimes it's someone close of the family. And then you will unconsciously, it's not something that you planned on, but unconsciously better think, okay, it means that the patterns of my family are not safe. It means that meaning around these people that people want to say, mainly when these constructs are made on your childhood, because there you are not processing things cognitively as an adult. But then you will grow up, and you will have a lot of adults in therapy. They went to so much on their childhood that they actually forgot the events, but they have the calcification of what I would say, of the concept of it's not safe, I'm not safe, I was abandoned. That's why we talk about the childhood emotional wounds like abandon, rejection. There's few things that you work because they are there. And then now I'm here as an adult, I'm letting go, I'm forgiving, I'm accepting. I link a lot of forgiveness as acceptance because I'm letting go dead patterns. So if you're letting go dead patterns, it will improve your relationships now. It will improve your relationship with yourself. That will come actually with a self-worth thing. There's a lot of people that went to trauma and they keep the grudge, but they went to trauma and they have not forgiven everything, but they not forgive themselves. So now they will be a person with a low self-esteem. I think it happened to me also because on these 20 years, a lot of self-sabotage with small things and big things would happen because I didn't feel worthy, because I didn't forgive myself. I didn't forgive myself of the fact. A lot of people, when they go through this, they have guilt on themselves. If you don't forgive yourself, you'll be like, oh, I'm not worthy actually of good things. So there's a lot of reasons to do it.
Yeah. So I suppose like you're kind of I'm really glad we've got you because you're a very good person to ask this question to, because as you've said, you have been through some things in your life which you've forgiven, but it's been hard, and I think you probably do better than I would. Even so, as a priest, we do struggle to forgive. So what would you say is like a thing that happens to people who then, and you've touched on it, but what happens to people when it just seems impossible to forgive? Because I know there'll be people who listen to like, forgiveness is fine, but you don't know what happened to me. And so what do we kind of like look at in that sense, would you say? Is there any wisdom that you can share with us? Because I would find that really helpful because I need an answer to that question too.
Yeah. And as you said, actually, also for me, and this experience of being on the 20 years after, making actually much more progress 20 years after, is that thing is not easy. And I think it needs to start with the self-forgiveness. Because, as you said, the person will say, you don't know what happened to me. Yeah. But sometimes what the trauma brings is a lot of shame and guilt. And the shame and guilt towards yourself. And then you think, even you are an adult now and you say, well, just a child or it was innocent, it was not me. But deep inside, sometimes you have that guilt and shame. And I think that will be, when it's hard to forgive, that could be a little bit of small step, but the first step of letting go the shame and guilty towards yourself to start that process. And the second thing is when we forgive the other person, we think we are taking them the accountability. Oh, so it means that I'm taking the blame out of them. And that's not true because they need to be accountable. They need to answer. Yes. And it's not. You're doing for yourself. You're doing for your own well-being. You're doing for that internal object to be worked on. But it's a lot of internal work. You're not taking the accountability of the other person. They will deal with that or in God justice or in man justice in some way. But accepting that, acceptance is also part of it. I think the women that I interview, a lot of the things that they did, because it was a healing through meditation. My post-graduation was healing from this kind of traumas to meditation and yoga. And the meditation brings a lot of acceptance, accepting what happened. Because when they say, you don't know what happened to me, is of course, this is the need to, I want to shout out and let everybody knows what happened because I live that, it lives in me. And accepting, it's a little bit of, yes, I acknowledge, and yes, it happened. Yes, that wound hurts, and we will move little by little from that. And a part of those moments where they had, it was a lot of acceptance. For me, it was years ago, so I didn't have my own forgiveness worked on yet. And I was like, okay, you accepted a lot of things, but actually I think it was a key for their own well-being, accepting that happened. Yeah. And from that, worked on.
So acceptance is a key to helping the person who is being traumatized from an experience that they now hold on to now, from experience in the past, an experience in the past they now hold on to now in the present. Would that be right?
Yes. And then I will say the importance of therapy, of doing psychotherapy. I'm not talking about CBT. I'm not talking something 12 sessions and it's right. As I said, it took me 4 years of seeing someone constantly, and it takes time. But then the therapy, it will help you to look at that wound in a very compassionate way, it will be hard. It always hurt. And then I'll say it's not easy, but it's a tremendous step for healing. It's accepting that wound. Because some people just go to therapy and they are treating, for example, Ralph, you go to therapy because you're having problems on your work with your classmates, and then the relationships are being really hard, and then a lot of conflict. And it's because you're not accepting and you're not seeing something that is beyond that. And so therapy just helps to unveil kindly and slowly at your pace that. So that's, for me, important, very important.
It kind of reminds me with my children of kind of like when they've got a cut and you need to clean the dirt out the wound first, and that cleaning hurts, doesn't it? And they, you know, but when it's got clean, it can then heal properly and it doesn't get infected. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's kind of the image that's kind of drawn to.
Yeah, it's a good metaphor. Yes, it's great.
But we clean it out. So,
brilliant, and it's very, very, very deep. In my opinion, very deep and sensitive conversation we're having here, and I am hoping that our listeners can, connect to these words and find some strength and direction from them, right? I've got two questions in one. The first one, now let's go a bit into what it may look like for you dealing with this professionally. At what point would you be able to say, I understand you've said that forgiveness is a journey, it's a process. So the first question would be, at what point would you be able to say forgiveness has occurred, that we can tell that indeed forgiveness has happened? The second one would then be, in your experience, have you ever been surprised, or what has surprised you the most in your professional experience when we're talking about, dealing with forgiveness?
Yes. So if I got right, the first
question talks
would
about
be,
when can you say in the
when
process that
it's
forgiveness has happened?
you forgive. Yeah. Yes. I think it's not linear, Ralph. I think it's not linear. It has a lot of things. It's not like being on a stage that, okay, I forgive now 10% and then a little bit and a little bit, a little bit more. It actually, it will grow, but you can go back and forward on this journey. As any other healing journey, you can have days that, I feel good. I feel that I'm letting go. I feel that I'm moving. And then days after, months after, you will feel back again on resentment and grieving or something or anything. So it's not linear, I must say. But I think every movement that you do within that mass, it's a progress. And I think that's something that people also need to accept, that there's no point that I'll forgive it a lot and I will not have more problems or issues on that path, on that topic. It won't be linear. Our brain and our human beings, it's more complex than that. But it's praising yourself on every step you take. And then if further you have harder days, also have self-compassion on that. Self-compassion on, I did progress actually. I thought I forgave and I did a lot of things with that. But today I'm feeling grieving on that. Again, self-compassion, I would say.
So,
and my answer is, it's not linear, but a lot of self-compassion helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about the surprise. What has surprised you the most, in work?
And now that I talk, I think with the women that I interview at that time, what I said, it was that acceptance that brings me to self-forgiveness. And as I said now, the self-compassion of looking at my journey that with ups and downs, the self-forgiveness for me was wow, because always I thought it was about the other person. I thought it was about, I need to forgive that man that did wrong. And that's hard. Because when I think about that person, it brings me all the hard and bad feelings on it. So I thought it would be about that. I thought it would be about looking at the other person with a lot of compassion and say, I forgive you. And it was not. My big surprise was the self-forgiveness. Because a lot of people that goes through grief, trauma, and losses, they will feel that shame and guilty that I mentioned before. And that acceptance of, I forgive myself over and over and over again for doing not the right choices, or for being vulnerable, or sometimes just we are angry of ourselves for being in that situation. And you say, I forgive myself because I was young. I forgive myself because I didn't know, or I forgive myself because I did the wrong choice. Because we will fail. We will fail. The only one who didn't fail was Jesus. So that big surprise for me was self-forgiveness. And I think with me, it was when I came to that point of wow, it moved a lot of things in my life. And I will tell you about my self-esteem, for example. I'm 30 somethings now. But my teenage times, my 20s, it was a lot about of I'm not worthy, I'm not beautiful, I'm not that good. The I'm not that good worked so much on me, and I didn't know it was because of trauma, because of not forgiving myself and not forgiving everything around me. Sometimes you need to forgive the people you think, or the eternal object of people you think would protect you. And it was something you have resentment not on the perpetrator, you have resentment, for example, on your parents for not being there to protect you, or your partner for not doing that thing that would protect you, things like that. So a lot of things that will come internally. I think the big surprise is that self-forgiveness and internal work you do with forgiveness and not towards the other.
So forgiveness has got to be approached from the aspect of, self-forgiveness. Is that okay to say?
Yeah, from inside out.
From inside,
From inside
so
out.
the approach is inwardly, then it flows outwardly. Brilliant.
Yeah, it flows, and it will flows in actions. It will flows on your behavior. It will flows on your relationship. It will flows from inside out. Yeah.
I've got to say, like this, maybe people listening and that this is obvious, but that thing about forgiveness being a process, and it's something that we keep on coming back to, because remember, like Jesus says, forgive because you're forgiven, but then that is also a process that God does with us. Is He forgives us constantly. He forgives me definitely constantly.
Yeah.
Flipping heck, I need it. But that process of kind of like being able to go to people is that actually saying, like, when you're looking at forgiveness, like we're not just talking about a moment. We're not just talking about you saying like forgive them and then getting over it. It's saying like we sit with you in the process. We sit with you and we're with you, and that is that's really powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. So thinking about the sort of elements of faith and forgiveness, because obviously in Christianity and actually a lot of the world religions, right, talk about this need for forgiving others, basically. And what would you say in terms of Lent? We're in now, or will be in when people are watching this, and you've got these 40 days to prepare. One of the big elements is forgiveness and forgiving others. So what would you say is something important for people to grasp hold of if they're looking to let go of resentment or bitterness? Like what was important during that time, seeing as that it is a process? What's something that people could do?
I think as you looked at it as a process, and as you said, of God forgiving us constantly, I would say keep forgiving. It is really something continuously, because as you said, some people you will need to forgive over and over again. And again, forgiving doesn't mean that I'm doing the reconciliation of connecting to the person, or it could, if it leads to it, of course, is ideal. If it will flourish to a positive relationship, of course, let's do it. But sometimes you will continuously forgive someone for doing what they're doing or being what they're being because they did the transformation yet, but you done the transformation. You were born again and you have that on your heart. So I think what I will say is continuously doing. Also because it's a muscle memory. You will do once, your little Iceland there, the insulin on your limbic system is deliberating your oxytocin, but it needs to continue doing it. And the more you do it, more neuropaths you're doing it. So biologically, you need to continue doing. Spiritually, you need to continue doing. Personally, on your relationships, you need to continue doing. So I would say that let's keep forgiving and continue doing it.
Right. This sounds very, very, very interesting to me. And then, talking about the faith thing and the Lent conversation. Even in the Lord's Prayer, the popular Lord's Prayer that we recite from day to day in different faiths.
The very popular Lord's Prayer.
Exactly.
It's been recited by all Christian, and taught in many schools around the world. There's the part that says, forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. So kind of interests me that God always forgive our sins, our undoings. And I'm kind of tying it down to what you said, like we need to keep forgiving every day, every time, because it's just a way of healing ourselves. If I can just learn from what you've said. So it helps us to heal. But what I'm a bit curious about is, would there be anything like forgiveness in advance? Okay, so for example, if I've got friends or colleagues or maybe partner who I always know we always do things that I'm not quite comfortable with, and because I know this is going to do this thing and it does it every time, and it upsets me. Is there anything like?
Are you talking about me, Ralph? Are you talking
am
about
I
me?
looking in your direction? Does it seem like I'm looking in your direction?
I'm going to do the internal work to accept that and forgive you.
So would there be anything like, well, I need to forgive Matt in advance, I need to forgive someone before because I know he will do it? Please talk us through that.
It's funny, like you have some credits and then in advance you give to people. I think, again, the forgiveness, it doesn't take accountability. You can always go to Matt and say, I know you will do it. You can skip that not doing it. Yes, because it's that. Yeah, I think forgiveness is just part of a whole system. So just not forget that it will not be everything. And there's a lot of compassion, self-compassion, or empathy towards others, and understanding or relationships. So forgiveness is a piece on a puzzle. So if you have the chance of, in anticipation, talk to the person or have any intervention on that, please do
Have
it.
some credit for your forgiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah.
So coming into land, then I suppose what would be good to hear from you is like if you've got any particular last thoughts or last things you'd really want to say to us about forgiveness, or what you would say to someone who's particularly listening to this, I suppose, and is feeling like they maybe need to forgive someone or is struggling with that. What's like a summing up of your wisdom, I suppose?
And that I feel that now. Very important.
Go for it.
Just to put you on the
Go
spot,
for it. Go for it.
Just
My gosh,
dispel everything
you
in
can do
like
it.
2 minutes,
you can do
please.
it,
That'd be great.
Go for it. Go for it.
That's a big responsibility. But I think everything we said here, I hope it gives us self-reflection. And it's more that. And I didn't came here as the person who knows more or the wise one. I think we are always learning with each other. We have so much things to share. And of course, we specialize in things. We dig and we dive things. We study more. But there's nothing on your healing process about forgiveness that it would, like, there's something that could be new to me, could be new to Matt, could be new to Ralph, and it's only for yourself. And people to accept that also, that each journey will be individual, will be different. And as a person who got to the experience, I know that will be hard. And even when I went to my process and I share with friends saying, I finally had the chance to do this. And there were other women also victims of abuse that they said, I will never forgive my abuser, or I will never do that. And I completely understand. But the forgiveness on yourself, that for me is something that it has, and it will be so good to do with yourself. And you said it's hard. You are in a place that it's hard to forgive what happened or the external thing, but the internal, all the sum of this is, please look at the self-forgiveness, because it's for your own mental health, for your own physical health, for your own spiritual health, because God accepts you exactly how you are with everything you've been through. And why you're not accepting yourself on that? If he loved you, there's nothing will separate from his love. But it's a lot of that self-forgiveness will lead a little bit on this love and its self-love and the love that God has for us. So I think that will be my last word.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think the thing for me as well is that God accepts us as we are, but he doesn't want to leave us as we are. So it's not just picking us. God wants to be part of that work and help us grow and be more fully human, more alive as well.
And heal, yes. God wants
heal.
our healing.
For me, I would say God doesn't define us from our experiences. Oftentimes we want to define ourselves, our self-worth from our experiences. God sees us beyond that. He defines us based on the love that He has for us. We are fearfully and wonderfully made by Him. So the experiences don't define us before Him. It's because we are precious to Him, and the love that is shown to us through His Son expressly, define how He sees us and how He appreciates us.
Yeah. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
That was
Thank you
wonderful.
so very much, Diana. It's been beautiful.
Thank you, Rolf.
Yeah, and I would say, so if you want to join in any of the conversations, the links will be below, and you'll be able to join us. It's Matt and Ralph Talk, and would love you to join in, comment, and say anything. I think one thing that needs to be said is, while people of faith and we want people to come to God, we want people to know God's forgiveness and love, we're also very keen on making sure that God gives us tools in the world. So if you are struggling with forgiveness or mental health and things like that, please go seek help. Please go speak to your doctor, and if you want to, you can drop us a PM and we'll send you some links to some things which you may find helpful, because that is so important too. But I've been Matt. I've been joined by my colleague.
This is Ralph, and it's so beautiful to be in this session again. It's been absolutely mind-blowing having this brilliant moment with Diana. It's such an absolute pleasure. Thank you for honoring our invitation. Thank you for coming to bless us with your experience and from your wealth of your knowledge. We are indeed super grateful.
We are very, and
thank you so much.
Thank you, and we'll see you very soon for our next episode. So God bless you, and take care.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.